Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is May. I go by Cousin May, and today I'm going to switch it up a little bit and cook some Liberian food for you, and hopefully you will be able to follow along or do it at home. As you guys know, I am Liberian. I'm from Liberia, West Africa, and I did mention in my very first video that there was a old YouTube video floating around of me cooking with my friend Jody, and I am going to link that video below so you can check out May then and now. But today we're going to be cooking jollof rice. There was a recent video on the internet where someone had cooked a pot of jollof rice that was not exactly jollof rice. So here's the thing, and it was very brave of her to do it, and her husband was very supportive of her in attempting to cook that and sharing it with the world and bringing light to some of the foods that we eat as Africans. However, yeah, so it didn't quite come out like it should, and I just feel like, you know, why don't we show support and solidarity? And if you were to see this video, I'm not even sure who it was, but if you were to see this video or just YouTube jollof rice. Now, mind you, different African countries make theirs differently. So you will have the Ghanaian jollof rice, Nigerian jollof rice, and Senegalese jollof rice. And I think with all of those, there's like a whole thing going on like which country has the best jollof rice. And I don't really tend to hear about Liberian jollof rice because, and I'm not really trying to start anything here, but we're not really even having those conversations because Liberian jollof rice is jollof rice. Facts. It just is. And we don't even need to enter those discussions. But, you know, everybody does their own thing and has their own spin on things, and that's fantastic. So here's my thing with this. You know, she cooked that jollof rice. I don't know if it was just her and her husband. I don't know if there was anyone from her husband's family that gave her a little bit of guidance on how to cook it. I'm pretty sure she got the advice from somewhere. However, I really feel like maybe there should have been like some hands-on guidance, like simple things like, you know, you don't really stir jollof rice a lot like that. Because then that's what happens. You like overcook it, you put too much water in there, and the rice gets really, really soft. And then you put tomato sauce or fresh tomatoes or tomato paste in there, which will get it that color, but it doesn't look like sweet potatoes. But so this is all like to support you, girl, with this video and just kind of like practice at home. But here's the main thing, like I talked about, you need guidance with any sort of African food if you even want to taste it, to taste something like what it's supposed to taste like. So that's like your aunties, your grandma, your older sister, anyone else who has cooked it before that you've tasted their food and it's good, you know, call and get that guidance. This is the one time, please ask for help. Ask for help. So I don't even attempt to do any of this stuff without calling my mom first. Just hands down. I will admit that. You have to call and get some guidance until you feel like mad confident enough to be able to do it by yourself. And even in that case, you know, it never hurts to just ask for help to learn. So that's the one thing. That's the best advice I can tell you on how to cook jollof rice, how to cook any kind of African food. Ask for help. Ask your auntie, ask your grandma, ask your mom, ask your dad. Some dads out there can chef it up. Some African dads chef it up. So ask for help. That's the best advice, video done. But we're gonna go through And I'm going to show pieces of it. I don't know if I'm going to show every single step, but I'll do my best. This is my first, like, for real cooking video, and I don't have Jody here to help me. Hey, girl. So we are going to go through this, and I will do my best to guide you through it. Just please know that I have also received guidance from my mom prior to this. Called her, she talked me through it. I might call her during, just to make sure. But, definitely it's all about having some sort of guidance through the process, okay? If you want it to turn out anything decent. And I can tell you right now that my jollof rice is nowhere near my grandma's jollof rice or my mom's jollof rice. And that's just something I'm just going to have to accept. I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to grow in it, and that's how it should be. But don't try it on your own. No, not like that. All right, so I'm gonna help. All right, let's do it. Jollof rice, and that's the other thing, is jollof rice, not jollof rice, or how did he say it? Jollof. It's not jollof, it's jollof rice. And if I'm gonna be cooking this, I actually might just slip into my Liberian accent. So there it is. And if you hear me talking like this, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I can't understand anything the guys saying, that's because I'm Liberian and I use my accent when I'm talking to my friends and my family, when I'm talking to other people that are from Liberia, and it's just a way of something that I've never got rid of. I think when you first come here, one of the first things you try to do is lose your accent, because that's what makes you different, and that's what all the kids are like, what are you saying? Are you speaking English? And it's like, yes, I'm speaking English because English is the main language of my country, and vocabulary is quite important for us. But at the same time, we have our accent, and yeah. So if you can understand me when I'm talking like this, then cool, you understand Liberian people. If you can't understand me right now, I will speak what we call series. I will speak the American English for you, so you can easily understand how I'm cooking and understand how the video going. But yeah, that's my accent, and you can't take the Liberian out of the girl. So hopefully it stays in the food. That's where you want it to be. All right, let's get to it. All right, so here's some things that you're gonna need. And like I said, this is a quarantine jollof rice, so it's a little struggle. But one of the key things with jollof rice is you wanna make sure you have a lot of good proteins in there. And chicken is always great. These chicken wings are ideal. You can have chicken breast, you can have turkey. Basically, Liberians throw every kind of protein in their jollof rice. You will see pieces of beef, you will see chicken, you will see shrimp, you will see every kind of protein you can get. Right now, I'm going to use some chicken wings. I think I have some shrimp in the fridge, so I'll toss some of those in there too. But you find maybe you can have sausage, you can have anything. So mine's going to be predominantly with chicken wing, and I have some shrimp that I might toss in there too. You're definitely going to need onions. So some good sweet onions, a green pepper. This is a pretty big one for that. That's going to be maybe your base. And then Liberian jollof rice tends to have mixed vegetables in it. So you'll have the mixed vegetables. The rice, so I have some Uncle Ben's. It's the only rice I can find right now. But the parboiled rice, I'll have my jollof rice with. You would have some kind of tomato paste or tomato sauce. Fresh tomatoes is ideal. I ran out of fresh tomatoes, and I'm not going to the store just for fresh tomatoes. So this is going to have to do. And as I mentioned, struggle jollof rice, but still jollof rice. So these are the things you're going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up the onions and the green pepper, and I'll cut those up. I'm going to season the chicken, and that's just, whatever seasoning you have, something, maybe just seasoned salt. but some Laurie's and some black pepper, and a little bit of cayenne if you want for a little kick. Whatever it is, you're going to season the chicken because you're going to cook it separately and you're going to brown it. And that's what I'm going to do over there in that cast iron pot. I'm going to brown the chicken and take it out and cook it separately to then be able to put it into the jollof rice all together. And once I've done that, what's going to go in the pot is going to be the onions and the green peppers. I'm going to put some oil and water in there to kind of and the tomato to start to kind of create a sauce. And all of that's going to go in there. I'm not going to put the mixed vegetables in yet, okay? So I'm going to put those in to make a sauce. As it starts to boil, that's when I'm going to introduce the rice into it and then bring in my mixed vegetables and let it all just cook together. That's what was such an issue with, I think, what we saw in that video with the jollof rice. It all just looked like the same color and consistency. And jollof rice is supposed to be colorful and different textured and delicious. I don't know how it tasted. Maybe it was delicious. But, you know, that's the process that I'm going to follow. And like I said, I'm going to get some video clips in there so you can see how things are going along the way. Season wise, I'm going to use a lot of, I'm going to use some bouillon cubes. So I have some bouillon. I'm going to use 2, maybe 3 because but no, probably just 2 because then it'll be too salty. So I'm going to use 2 bouillon cubes. I'm going to season my chicken with Laurie's garlic salt, which is the bomb. I'm going to season it with that and some black pepper. And it's pretty simple with the seasoning. I used to think there was some sort of magic dust that was being sprinkled into Liberian food, which there is. It's just called experience and being a great cook. But I usually will stick to those seasonings, and then a go-to for me is coriander. So I'll definitely put some coriander in there. But that's it. You don't need to over-season. You don't need to do a whole lot. There's flavors in the foods that will come out, and it's just in the way you cook it, I think, that brings it all out. And that's one of the key things I've learned when cooking Liberian food, because I would always ask my mom, what do you season it with? And she'd go, oh, salt and pepper. No, you use more than salt and pepper. So that's pretty much what's going to go in there. And let's get started, and I will keep you along with me as we go through. Now you just want to put your onions in your food processor and chop them all up. And you want to get these to be like really, really fine. What I also like to do is just kind of keep some chunky onions, and it'll all cook in the food, but I just like a little bit of chunky onions in there as well. And it's an onion heaven dish, so if you do not like onions, then it might not be for you. But they do kind of just disappear in the food, and the flavor is really great. So I would definitely say you definitely should try it, even if you don't like onions. But I'm going to chop these up. I'm going to chop up these as well, and then we'll get started on the cooking of the chicken. I have it right now seasoned and marinating just a little bit before I fry it. All right, so once you put it through the food processor, like I said, it's pretty chopped up, and I've got some of the chunky bits down there. And I like to always clean up as I go along, so clean things and, put them away when you're done. This, in the world of safety, is called lockout tagout. So after I have turned this off, I always unplug it, just because when I turn it on and use it, I want to make sure that it's intentional. So a little safety message for you. So now that we've done that, that's prepped, and then I'm going to prep the chicken and start frying it. So put your seasoned chicken into the oil, and you want to brown it on both sides, and then you're going to set it aside. All right, so I have some chicken in the pot, and that's just to show that, you can boil the chicken with the veggies in there to create its own chicken broth. That's what I do. A lot of Liberian foods, we make our own broth, and that's how we cook the food, as opposed to like using a separate chicken broth. So this is gonna go in there. You can also, like I did, like I said, fry the chicken and have it to the side and introduce it later on. You can broil the chicken. So, however you want to prepare some of your protein, but it is good to have some, already kind of cooking with your vegetables, because that's what's going to add flavor. And then these are the seasonings. So I'm going to take the bouillon. Like I said, I would use 2. And I'm going to put those in with the pot here, because I want to season this because I don't want to bother it too much. So I'm going to season the veggies and the protein in here, and then I'm going to let it boil and cook kind of undisturbed. And again, this is part of some of those lessons I talked about, where it's like you don't want to stir your jollof rice like too much. Know that the onions and the green peppers are going to, I would break those up, but they're hard. The onions and the green pepper have water in them. So I'm going to add water to have all of this boil, but I really don't need to add a lot of water. In fact, that's something that I would get yelled at all the time with my grandmother, on my dad's side. When she would help me cook in college, she would always say, don't put too much water. You put too much water. You didn't put enough water. So I can't really even give you a measurement. I would say with this size, maybe I would put 8 ounces, like a cup of water, but because there's going to be water coming from the onions. So, and even with seasoning, Liberians don't really cook with recipe. I'm not using too much of the garlic salt because it is salty and there's already bouillon in there. And then I'm going to put in some black pepper. Again, just to kind of get that flavor mixed in. The chicken is already seasoned, so that seasoning is going to go into the food. So I don't need to overdo it. And then here, I always like this Cajun season, this Bayou Cajun season, just because it adds a little bit of kick. So it's something that I use. Like I told you, my mom and my grandma cook way better jollof rice than me, and I doubt that they even use any of this extra stuff. This is just what I use to try to overcome the magic that they have in their cooking. So coriander, I will introduce in here. Again, just kind of go around the pot twice if you're looking for, I think that was like 3 times. But you can't go wrong with coriander, to be honest. So however many shakes that was, that's the recipe. And then I'm going to put in some tomato sauce. It's good to have fresh tomatoes. Like I said earlier, I don't have fresh tomatoes, so I'm going to use tomato sauce because it is a tomato-based sauce that you're cooking. And then I'm going to take the water, like I mentioned, just about 8 ounces, that you want to do. So that's like a cup of water. And I always pour the water in here so I can get all the tomato out. And then pour that in there and let that boil. All right, so I'm just gonna stir it, mix it all in. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm gonna cook this on medium to low. So this is just kind of stirring all the seasoning and the ingredients in. And that's gonna boil. Almost forgot. I'm gonna put some oil in. So I cook with avocado oil. Most of this is usually cooked with like a vegetable oil or something. I just try to cook with a little bit healthier oil, but it's oil nonetheless. Again, I don't really know how much to tell you to pour in. I just pour in a little bit, and that should do it with the whole sauce. And then you cover it, you let it boil. All right, so chicken's all done.
And it is good.
And let's look at the pot. So it should be boiling by now. Yeah. So you see now that that is boiling, it's cooking everything. There's good water in there. So now is when I'm going to introduce my rice. So this is 2 cups of rice. So actually I might need to put a little bit more, but yeah, I think I might need to put a little bit more. So you mix the rice in and the rice is gonna cook. You'll see I also put some shrimp in here. Like I mentioned, you just, put a lot of different proteins in there. The chicken that's in there is cooking and it's, creating a broth for everything. So I'm gonna put in another cup of rice, but pretty much what you're gonna do is let this rice start to cook with these juices. And then as it starts to cook, I'm gonna add the mixed vegetables and I'm gonna reintroduce the chicken that's already cooked towards the end and just let all those flavors kind of gel together as we get closer to that, all right? So I had added tomato sauce initially, so I'm adding tomato paste, and that's going to add a little bit more of that reddish color. But I'm gonna again let this cook. Like I said, always ask for guidance because I'm not sure if I should add the mixed vegetables right now or maybe give it a little bit. So I'm gonna call my mom. Hold on, just that thought. All right, so I'm adding the mixed vegetables, like mom said. And that's a good amount. And then I've also have the tomato paste that I put in here. So you can see that this is, let me zoom in a little bit. You can see that that adds color and there's rice grains, but this rice isn't done yet, but it's supposed to absorb all the water. And once it's done, then it'll really cook up nicely. So the tomato paste is in here to add the color. The mixed vegetables is in here. You can see those big chunks that I like. You can see the chicken and the shrimp. So right now there's still some water on there and we're just gonna let that cook. But at this point, like mom said, you cover it up. You open it and you wanna make sure, I'm putting this on low, you wanna make sure that it doesn't burn, as the rice is gonna suck up a lot of the water as it's cooking pretty quickly. But you also don't wanna stir it too much because now it's, cooking and it should actually look like rice. All right, so let's see what this looks like as it's cooking. It's on low, okay. So we do need to stir it, like I mentioned, just to make sure that it doesn't burn on the bottom. But as you can see here, these are individual grains. So when you're stirring it, you're not mashing, you're kind of just pushing it so that it gets away from the bottom. You're not stirring it to mash it up. So this is a non-stick pot, so it's coming out really good. You see everything's mixed in. I'm going to mix in the chicken that was already cooked. So we're gonna mix all of that in. And this jollof rice is going to just cook. Here I'm just mixing this a little bit so the seasoning gets mixed in with the rice. Okay, and again, I'm just kind of pushing. I'm not stirring in a mashing motion. I'm just pulling and pushing. So there's the chicken, there's the shrimp, there's the mixed vegetables, there's that tomato base, which gives it a little bit of that tomatoey color because of the stew. But, it's just a little bit more defined in texture, in content. So I'm going to cover this and let it just continue to cook on low. And then we'll check in on it when it's done. All right, let's check it out. So like I said, it's tomato based, so it's got that color, but moving it around just to make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom, which it shouldn't. But you've got individual grains of rice. I may have made maybe some of her mistake too. Put too much water in there. Like I said, it's very crucial how much water you put in there, because you don't want the rice to cook too soft, or else it does get that mashed look. And it's worse if you keep stirring it and mashing it up, but you also don't want it to be too hard, because then it's not cooked. So it's just a matter of, you know, knowing how much rice you're going to put in there, putting enough water, and taking into account that the onions and all of that has water in it as well. That's going to lend to cooking the rice. But let me take a little bit and taste it. Take a little bite and see if it's good. And then, you know, the ultimate judge, his name is Tyrell. But the ultimate judge actually is my mom, because I can't be embarrassing her in these streets. Let me try it. Good. The rice is still firm, which is good. It's still cooked, not too soft, not hard at all. The seasoning, the flavor is all in there, so it's delicious. And there's your final dish, all ready for you in a nice bowl with a spoon, like most Liberians enjoy it. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me and learning how to cook Liberian jollof rice. As I mentioned, full disclaimer, my jollof rice is still in its growth and development. And if you are looking for that ultimate jollof rice, then I might need to videotape my mom when she's here and she's cooking it for sure. But in the meantime, this is going to taste delicious. And I am really excited. Like you guys saw, it has your mixed vegetables, and it has your rice, it has your protein, and it's freaking delicious. And those seasonings, like I mentioned, are super simple. It's more about the process in how you cook it, and you're good to go. So good luck out there making your jollof rice. Thanks for checking me out. Make sure to leave any comments in the section. And I mean, you can judge my jollof rice in the comments. That's totally fine. But at the same time, if you have any questions, make sure to put those below, and don't forget to subscribe. So thanks, and see you later. Bye.